Pam. Well, it's hard to believe that we've reached the end of this year's International Humanitarian Dialogues. We have had an absolutely tremendous day and evening, and the reception that we have received in Nuremberg and the support that we have received from our hosts is just amazing. I can't say enough for how wonderful the city has been, how wonderful Henny and Astrid has been, and Florian has been. And I would like to thank once again our host for this year's International Humanitarian Law Dialogues, the city of Nuremberg. And of course, the Memoriam Nuremberg Trials, and of course, the Documentation Center and Nazi Party rally grounds. Florian, you're our representative of the city right now. Please stand up and take a bow. I would also like to extend my thanks to kind of my team in putting this together. Right there is my team in putting this together. I would like to give a huge round of applause to Molly. Molly and I have been working on this for months. We've been meeting in different states. Pam's been there. We've been meeting in different states, planning this, getting this together, doing everything. And I just can't say how wonderful Molly has been to help bring this together. And speaking of Pam, my wife, I have to also give her thanks and a round of applause for everything that she has done. And you know, and I don't just mean putting up with me during the planning and working on this, but Pam has been just as active here in Nuremberg, helping us get things together, put things together, and so again, I also want to thank her. And Darian, who joined us on Thursday, yesterday, and we immediately put her to work. Where's Darian? There she is. And we immediately put her to work on helping out, and so I want to very, very much thank her. I also want to take this opportunity to say that, of course, next year's dialogues will move back to Chautauqua. I believe the dates are the 27th, 28th, and 9th of August, or the 26th to the 28th. Those days in August, starting that last weekend in August. And as the city of Nuremberg was the host for this year's dialogues, next year the host for the dialogues will be the Case Western Reserve University School of Law and the Syracuse University College of Law. And they will be our hosts next year at Chautauqua. And of course, lastly, I want to mention again our sponsors. Because, of course, without our sponsors, we couldn't make this happen. And you've heard from our sponsors last night and today. I'm not going to repeat them all again, but you've heard from them, and our sincere appreciation. Let's have a big round of applause for our sponsors. I was asked to remind our sponsors to, if you want your leftover materials, to pick them up before you leave, and there isn't too much left over, and so, but thank you.
Jim, point of order. I think we should recognize someone who has been laboring on this since the beginning of last year when I turned to Jim saying we're going to Nuremberg, and that is our good friend Jim Johnson, who put this together. So right
Thank you. Thank you. My last announcement at 17:30, 5:30 for the Americans, 17:30, the bus will depart from here for the hotel. at 18:15, or again 6:15 p.m. Those that are invited by the city, and you know you are if you got a black folder from us, those that are invited by the city to the program tonight, we will depart the Ramada at 18:15 for the courtroom. That's not a lot of time. And the program's going to start at 7 p.m. whether we are there or not. So as long as the bus is there, we will depart at 18:15. To get there? Not sometimes in Nuremberg traffic. So 18:15 we will be departing. Now, to close the international dialogues and to read our declaration, it is sincerely my honor to introduce our second representative from the American Bar Association and the chair for the Center for Human Rights. I would like to introduce the Honorable Margaret McKean, the Honorable Margaret McKean. McEwen, the Honorable Margaret McEwen.
Third time's a charm, as we know. Good afternoon. It's my privilege to preside over the closing ceremonies this afternoon. As Jim said, I'm Judge Margaret McEwen. I am a judge on the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. With 2 international land borders, a very long maritime border, we are the home of many, many international law cases. But I'm here at this dialogue because of my passion for the rule of law. I chair the American Bar Association Rule of Law Initiative, which we affectionately call ABA ROLI. In this project, the ABA works in over 50 countries to promote the rule of law, and we do that through partnerships with local and national entities in these various countries. We work with justice sector actors, lawyers, judges, prosecutors, government officials, and activists to build local capacity, to strengthen laws and legal institutions, and also to deliver on accountability on the national level. I'm also here on behalf of all of the entities of the American Bar Association who are co-sponsors of this amazing dialogue. That includes not only ABA Rule of Law Initiative, but the ABA Center for Human Rights, the ABA Criminal Justice Section, and the ABA Section of International Law. The theme of this year's gathering, A Lasting Legacy for the Future, encourages us to go back and mine that post-World War II history and also the Nuremberg legacy for lessons and inspiration for today's very significant justice challenges. We, of course, are gathered here in honor of the 70th anniversary of the Nuremberg judgments, and we celebrate remarkable progress to remember that just a lifetime ago, there was no international criminal law, no genocide convention, no Geneva Conventions, and no international tribunal. And then here in Nuremberg, the wisdom, courage, foresight, and creativity of a few took hold and really changed the world. Of course, Nuremberg has come to represent a high water mark in international justice, and it represents both, I think, a legal landmark and also a legal standard. Justice Jackson, the chief prosecutor, looms large in our discussion all day about Nuremberg and its legacy. But I'd like to remind you that it was really quite remarkable to have a U.S. Justice of the United States Supreme Court take leave of absence from the court. There was no precedent for this, and unlike in some countries, there was no statutory authorization for him to do this. When he left the 9-member court, it of course left the court with only 8 members, a circumstance that it finds itself in today as well, with only 8 justices. But one justice somewhat selfishly complained that what it did for him was simply cause extra work. I would suggest that justice was perhaps a little short-sighted. It was a time in history when extraordinary circumstances demanded extraordinary measures. So today, as we see situations that are in seemingly intractable, violent conflict, we see attacks on civilians, and we see atrocities of unspeakable barbarity, we do know that justice looms large. The law reaches far, and it reaches high. Heads of state can and have been held accountable, and again, we have seen that eventually accountability prevails. As it did here in Germany, justice permits us to move forward from conflict toward a lasting peace. And as we were reminded this morning, justice also provides a legacy for the victims. That's the legacy that we honor today, and that these modern-day prosecutors commit themselves to carry forward. You may have heard a little laughter and frivolity coming from that room back there when the prosecutors were meeting, and I suggest to you that that does not in any way detract from the seriousness of today's declaration. But instead, I suggest to you that it represents the joy that they feel of the prospect of being a participant in a system of justice about which they have made this declaration. So this is a tangible representation of their commitment and for our hope for even a brighter future. Let me read to you the declaration. Declaration of the 10th International Humanitarian Law Dialogues at Nuremberg, September 29th, 2016. In the spirit of humanity and peace, the assembled current and former international prosecutors and their representatives here at Nuremberg, Germany, recognizing the continuing need for justice and the rule of law as the foundation to international peace and security, and cognizant of the legacy of all those who preceded us at Nuremberg and elsewhere. Considering that the commemoration of the 70th anniversary of the judgments of the International Military Tribunal at Nuremberg is an appropriate occasion for renewal of international commitment to justice for all victims of atrocity crime. Acknowledging those judgments and the work of those at that tribunal that set the cornerstone for the modern system of international criminal law. Inspired by the commitment of the Nuremberg Tribunal to stay the hand of vengeance and subordinate power to reason. Noting with grave concern the ongoing attacks against civilian populations, including humanitarian actors in violation of the norms applied at Nuremberg and modern international criminal law. Commending Ambassador Christian Venevesser as the 8th representative of the Joshua Hines Humanitarian Award for his important and very impressive service to humanity. Celebrating the 10th anniversary of the International Humanitarian Law Dialogues. Now do solemnly declare and call upon the international community and international organizations to keep the spirit of the Nuremberg principles alive by promoting the independence of international and national judicial institutions, including shielding them from political interference, ensuring full accountability for all perpetrators of international crimes, such as enforcing warrants and judicial orders, protecting the integrity of judicial proceedings by guaranteeing witnesses and victims are free from threats and undue influence. Ensuring effective accountability for all international crimes, including sexual and gender-based crimes, crimes victimizing children, and crimes against cultural heritage. Providing full support to all international courts and tribunals in the exercise of their judicial and residual functions. Committing to capacity building based on best practices and their own experience in assisting jurisdictions to fulfill their complementarity obligations. Signed and mutual witness, Fatou Bensouda, Serge Bramitz, David M. Crane, Norman Farrow, Brenda J. Hollis, Hassan B. Jallo, Nicholas Kumajan, Robert Petit, and Stephen J. Rapp. So we'll now ask the prosecutors to sign the declaration.